Hey guys, Kristen back here, and in this episode we are talking about common prevention for ulcers.
Specifically in horses, so how to prevent ulcers in horses.
So there is a number of products actually out there that can be used as preventatives and everything else. One of them is actually one that we've mentioned in our treatment option, and actually there's two of them. Both Omeprazole and sulfoate can be used for preventative measures. More commonly is Omeprazole or your UlcerGard or GastroGard. A lot of times I'll see people having like a quarter of tube or something before they go out to a show, or before they're hauling to a new barn or moving somewhere. They'll do at least a quarter of a tube. Sometimes they'll do more, or they'll do like a couple of full tubes and then cut beforehand leading up to it, and then do like a half or a quarter dose.
There are also supplements too, if you don't want to go the medication route. Some people use Relyne, some people use Neigh-Lox, some people use Outlast. There are a whole host of products that have a lot of research behind them now.
And there's all the other supplements that she hasn't mentioned that you can see at like the stores. There's Ulcer Aid, your gastro pellets. There is a lot of them out there. So some other preventative too is alfalfa hay. And it's interesting too with alfalfa versus like other hay and how it can kind of help with the prevention of ulcers. And it goes into both the form of the hay, like the stemminess, right? And then it
provides a good mat in the horse's stomach to absorb the acid. And so it's interesting. So like I mentioned Neigh-Lox, and one of the reasons that Neigh-Lox works is it's actually a calcium supplement. So you kind of want to think about it as like your Tums or your Mylanta type thing. And that soothes your stomach. It can help prevent ulcers. They don't treat ulcers. Well, alfalfa is the same way. Alfalfa has a higher calcium concentrate than the other hays do as well. So that's where the alfalfa comes in, not only just the texture of the hay, but also the nutritional content with calcium.
And actually, interesting point too is that you can give horses Tums.
Yes, you can.
Most won't eat it, but there are some that
you have to get them a lot.
You do. There is a horse that we have here at the bar that loves it. Now he's not giving it as like a preventative per se. He's given a couple of them more as a treat for taking his bit and everything else just before he goes and rides. But it works for him. He's just like he's an interesting boy. Actually, no, there's two horses here because our little halflinger,
she does
likes, but then again, she just likes everything. So,
And then there's also just general management, as far as helping them live a more natural life, right? So horses that aren't stalled 24 hours a day, they can go out to Turnout,
fresh grass can help.
Yes, fresh grass, social interaction is a big stress reliever. Anything that you can think of that can reduce your horse's stress. Slow feeding, if you can do that, either in a hay net or a slow feeder, or provide food just 24/7 for them, because we know that they produce acid all day long.
And a note on the slow feed and everything else, play around with what works for your horse. There's different things that work, and some horses can and cannot use certain things because of a variety of reasons. And I mentioned this just because one of my mares, she has an overbite, and her front teeth are kind of flattened because she likes to rub them along bars. She's a weirdo. But because of that, while I have her hay in a slow feed, one of those porta grazers, I don't have the top on because she can't actually grab it enough to get the hay out now she just has it in there as more of a container anyways. She doesn't really need the slow feed, but because of her overbite and the flatness of her teeth, she can't actually grab it very well. So that would make it too slow for her, and she wouldn't be able to get the nutrients very quickly enough and she would lose weight with that. Versus hay nets. There's a love-hate relationship in the equine community. Some of you may or may not know for hay nets because a lot of times people have them up high and that does things with their necks and stuff. and it goes with all things, but it can also wear down their teeth. So just
Yes.
keep in mind going that route to do things that works for your horse, and keep an eye on it if it's fairly new to make sure they're getting what they need.
Yeah. So management to me is a big thing when it comes to ulcers. Are you always putting your horse in a high stress environment? Are you at a relaxed barn where the horse is like happy and healthy? Feeding times and schedules are important too for horses. It's kind of funny here. Like when the time changes, our horses don't understand it. And you don't want to be at a place where the neighbor feeds their horse in the stall next door, and then your horse gets fed 45 minutes later. That is one of the issues that I've always had with self-care places, because our horses know when somebody else is being fed, and it agitates them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they also know the order. So they know that they start at the lower barn, they work their way up, they do the same route every day. It allows them to have some sort of expectation, and then they're not stressing about when their food is coming if they are the type of horse that can't have food all the time. And so be aware of that. Be aware of, are you at a place where, horses are getting fed at all different times? What is the consistency of the schedule? Is the hay being transitioned slowly? Because that can cause gastric ulcers too, and gastric upset. Probiotics are also important. Helps the horse break down their food well enough. Purina does an amazing thing where they will actually take a poop sample and take the DNA from the poop sample and see if your horse has a good biome in there, because it can cause hindgut ulcers if they don't. It can cause diarrhea. It can cause all of these things. It can upset the gastric system in a horse. It's incredibly sensitive and very poorly designed, and not at all how we eat. So don't put your human emotions and wants and different things onto the horse. And I understand that it can be a careful balance sometimes between having a horse that's obese, and I don't like that either.
Yeah.
Some horses just can't be fed all the time. So I challenge you that if you have that kind of horse, you need to figure out a different strategy.
Mm-hmm. Look into things like, I know some people who have that, and they'll just have straw for the horse, because straw has zero nutritional value for the horses. But they can munch on it, and it can just fill the empty space and help prevent ulcers without causing weight for the horse. And similarly too, there's other styles of stuff out there too that you can give that's like a feeder kind of thing. So
yeah, management is a big part of it. Supplements and everything are great.
Management is the first step, I would say, is like having that and having good forage too, because you can have good management, you can have a nice system of timing and feeding everything else, but if the forage isn't great,
too sugary, too strong, too what cutting of alfalfa is it?
Yeah, if it's not good hay, if it's poor quality, all of that will play an effect, and other issues will arise too outside of ulcers.
Yeah.
Or in addition to, rather.
Yeah. So take a hard look at your management, and if you have a horse that's been diagnosed with ulcers, you treat them. Don't just go back to the same thing you were doing because it wasn't working.
Yeah.
Right. Look at reinventing the wheel a little bit to see what you were missing. And maybe it was just that the horse just transitioned to the barn. That's a big stressful event too. So it could be that. But make sure that if you treat them for a full 30 days of UlcerGard, you've helped your horse. It's financially expensive, all the things. Figure out a long-term management strategy. So, yeah.
So let us know what you like to do for prevention of ulcers. Any interesting tips or tricks that maybe isn't super common or known. And any other thoughts you have?
Yep. And thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.